Hello guys, how are you doing? This is another episode of Thursday with Kumi. I am your host Kumi, and today we will be taking a look at some of the greatest Thanksgiving games in NFL history. So without further ado, let's get it started. I'm going to make this real brief. This was known as the first Bounty Bowl game, and there was really no competition here. The Eagles shut out the Cowboys 27-0. This is the game where Dallas Cowboys coach Jimmy Johnson accused Eagles head coach Buddy Ryan on putting a bounty on the Cowboys, specifically Cowboys quarterback Troy Aikman. After the game, Jimmy Johnson had these choice of words for our man, Buddy Ryan.
Oh, I would have said something to Buddy, but he wouldn't stand on the field long enough. He put his big fat rear end into the dressing room.
In 1976, OJ had solidified himself as one of the all-time running backs. And in one of the last all-time games of OJ's career against the Lions, he would rush for a record 273 yards on 29 carries, which would be the same number of passing yards that QB of the Bills, Gary Morangi, had. Unfortunately, the Bills did not come out on top as they lost the game 27-14. And although that record would be broken a year later, OJ's single game rushing record by Walter Payton in 1977, OJ treated the football world with an incredible football performance. In 1998, the Minnesota Vikings drafted Randy Moss as the 21st overall pick. Coming out of college, Moss was obviously the best receiver in the draft, but the off-the-field issues is what kept a lot of teams away from him when draft day came. One of the teams that passed Moss were the Dallas Cowboys, and on Thanksgiving Day, Moss would make the Cowboys regret that decision. By this time, Moss already took the league by storm, so there was no doubt that he would have a great game. But to have a game like this exceeds the level of game he was doing during this game. In this Week 12 matchup, Moss would have the most efficient game of his career as he scored 3 touchdowns with 196 yards receiving with only 3 catches the entire game. Now, when you talk about efficiency, nothing beats that. To nearly have 200 yards with only 3 catches is something we may never see again. To add to that, Vikings QB Randall Cunningham threw 4 touchdowns, completing 17 of his 35 passes, 356 yards, and only threw 1 interception. Like I said, Moss already made a name for himself, but this game solidified him to be one of the all-time great players and to be one of the best coming receivers in the years to come. Probably the most controversial game on this list, the 1998 matchup between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Detroit Lions. Overall, a low-scoring game. Even Barry Sanders had an off game as he only had 33 rushing yards. But the controversy came with the coin toss that came with some confusion. Obviously, it didn't go the Steelers' way, which led to the Lions receiving the ball and going downfield for the game-winning field goal to beat the Steelers 19-16. Fun fact, this would be the last Thanksgiving game of Barry Sanders' career and his last win ever. This was the year that Dan Marino was out with an injury, but despite that, the Dolphins were one of the top teams in the NFL as they were 8-2 going into the Thanksgiving game, and they would be going up against the defending Super Bowl champions Dallas Cowboys. So by this time, many looked at this matchup as a potential Super Bowl preview. This game is pretty unique, especially for the Cowboys, because it was a snow game, and it's rare that you see a snow game at Cowboys home game. To fill in for Marino, the 39-year-old Steve DeBerg would fill in for him. Like I said, it was a snow game, so a ton of slippage and sliding happened during this game, which is an important detail. For the game, it wasn't a very high-scoring game, as the score was 14-13 Cowboys late in their drive, which is until Dolphins went for a late field goal in their late-game drive. With about 5 seconds left, kicker Pete Stoyanovich went for a go-ahead field goal, and it got blocked, which will seal the Cowboys' win, so it seemed. Then Cowboys defensive tackle Leon Lett would dive for a fumble recovery, but it slipped and the Dolphins would recover it again, which would set the Dolphins for another field goal. The field goal attempt went from 40 yards to 19 yards, and surely Stoyanovich nailed the field goal to win the game 16-14. If you want to talk about an all-time blunder, this is definitely one of them. And that's today's episode. Thank you for watching, and make sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment, and tell someone to tell someone. And I'm out.